Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of today's discussion. Get a chance to start off celebrating with the Cayman Arts Festival. And then at 1 p.m., continue the discussion with the good friends over at DOE about feral cats. Hey, that's in the cards. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to Marius and Glenn and Angle for joining us and sharing some good things coming up with the Cayman Arts Festival. To you as the Executive Director, Mr. Arias. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us here today.
It feels like February already, doesn't it?
Yes. And I was walking and I was thinking, like, I've been so often that I think, I don't know, we deserve to have our own show. What do you think?
I think you should. You want to pick a day? Any day, any way.
Any day.
Yeah, you can have it, man.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want one thing from you. Free pass to go fishing.
Okay.
You can have the show, I go fishing. You can work that?
But you give me some fish when you come back.
Hey, I'll even clean it for you, prep it, cook it, and you can come and watch me eat it.
Oh, okay.
that's a good one.
No, but a man must, share his fish. And that's the thing, it is amazing that through food and music, we fellowship, we come together. I think there's a number of events I want you to share with us as you listen, but there's one in particular, and friends say, hey, I'm going to go to this, want to come. And it's good to be able to just sit in the audience, but it's good to have others join you so that you appreciate two things: the wonderfulness that is Cayman, and secondly, the reminder that we don't engage, that we take so much for granted, that we don't appreciate what we have here. And when I say we, sometimes I'm looking in the mirror and going, yep, you too, because we don't.
That's true.
We don't. Well, I understand that the subscription, as it were, to your events being almost overly subscribed in some instances. So hopefully people can still get in on the...
Yeah, we have some events that they are coming closer to a sold-out event, yes.
Yeah.
True.
Hey, you see that, boy? The power of radio and the appeal of Glenn. It all happens. So tell us, Marius, what do we have? I didn't deference to not printing anything and the fact that I couldn't get it to print.
It's okay. I have everything in my memory.
I have it right here. And Glenn has his big iPad. So
this is the best part. This is the best part when the festival starts. The hardest part is to put all of these things together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's February. It's our annual festival.
Mm-hmm.
After, since 2020, 2021 and 2021 they were a bit affected. We know why. Now is the first time when... No, not politicians.
Come on, he's so serious today.
Yeah, I'm serious today.
I've never seen him so serious.
I think it was a lot of work, and somehow my sense of humor started going away. It was a lot of work. So finally, in 2023, we have the festival the way how we had it in 2020 and previous years. And not only that, last year we had to spread out all our events during the entire year and to have the events outdoor. And I was thinking this year, let's try to do not have in just 10 days and to have the festival over the entire month of February. It's a lot of work. It's just one time. We will go back from next year again to the. I thought that I can handle them, but it's a lot of work for an entire month, and nobody has an excuse like I'm missing the island. I'm out of Ireland and for about 10 days, and that's the time of the festival. Now it's a month. You are not the first week of February on Ireland. You are on the next one, or the third one, or the fourth one. Each week will come with something, and we'll go in details immediately for these events. It's coming back, so we are happy. I can smile now saying that it's coming back the way how it was, and we added actually a few other festivals. That's why we're here quite often. Right. Every 3-4 months we have something that we will add to our agenda.
And what's interesting, the music at the library, I think not just the event itself, but the venue and the timing. I think, Glenn, that first sort of foray into using that venue we discussed way back when, it's proven to be quite appealing to the audience.
Yeah, I think it's taken us some time, I think, to get this far, as Maris was saying. And I think we've got quite a lot of variety this year as well. A lot for different tastes. I've got my season tickets to go to everything. Really looking forward to it. And it's one thing I was hoping was that people will at least try at least one event, because there'll be at least one event that they feel, sort of meets their fancy. But one thing that I always love about this particular festival and the way it sort of is structured is we always have this wonderful collaboration between our local artists and our visiting artists. And this is one thing that I'm really looking forward to seeing again, because it's a way in which you can really benefit from people sharing their different perspectives in one particular evening, for example. And one thing that I felt has always helped me as an artist is having more exposure to different perspectives, playing with other people from different cultures. So that's again very much happening this year again. And the other bit that I even like much more than that is the collaboration with the young students as well. They get to do a lot of master classes, and it's always really wonderful to see that ripple effect it has on the other people who either attend or, once these artists have left, what happens after they've gone, the follow-up work that we are able to do with these performers, these young performers. So we've got a variety of venues as well, which is great. In fact, we're able to showcase the breadth of venues we've got here in Cayman, even though we still find it a challenge to find a purpose-built venue for some of the events that we would like to have. But yeah, it's something which I'm really excited about. You will probably find there's a mixture of artists from different parts of the world as well. We have the first couple of weeks to be focused on people from this side of the Atlantic, and then the second couple of weeks, or the second half of the festival, we're focused on the other side of the Atlantic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I'm playing this year, which is always a relief. So I can sit back and enjoy. I'll obviously be involved behind the scenes with sort of some of the educational workshops as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of the events coming up.
And I appreciate, Glenn says that, Morrison, for you, you always have a jovialness about it. There's certainly the professionalism. You want it to be the very best, that sort of commitment to excellence. And what you come in and you see your desire to ensure that the audience gets the very best event and evening out. and now you can almost breathe. We try to make you laugh, but you can almost breathe.
Breathe after the festival. It's something interesting what Glenn mentioned, and I want to add something more. We have events like with overseas performers. We have events usually with local performers. We have master classes. Well, this year, it's not the first time, but this year we experienced something else. We put them together. So the first event is not just a jazz performer from New York that is coming here. I put him in touch with Benil Miller. So they put the event together. Together they will be on stage. It will be a fusion of New York jazz style with Caribbean jazz style. So that's something new. We've done an impromptu, I remember some years ago at the National Gallery, when on the spot we put them to perform. I think that time it was somebody from Senegal, and Benil, and what's the name of the Erica. Asai. So it was nothing planned. Now we start planning. Another thing that is interesting is that, okay, we have master classes. The students getting inspired, they see what is going on there. Now, in addition to that, the performers that will have master classes with them, they will bring on stage with them the performers, the students. So on Saturday, it's not just cabaret from New York. There will be students from, I don't know, John Gray, Clifton Hunter. They will come for a master class and they will be selected. So all of these things, every year we add more. We try to incorporate as much as possible the local influence into the festival. And this is the proof. I mean, you come to see it.
Yeah. So when we come back from the break, share with us, because I think, whether it's the reports from the World Travel and Tourism Council, or whether it is just, people in their own individual sort of self-assessment, we're now willing to engage and to embrace. We want to interact with other things and events. And for some, this is a return to the Arts Festival. For others, it's perhaps maybe their first sort of acquaintance with it. We want to share what's coming up, where, and if I could ask, if you were saying to that person who's never come before, who may have a perspective, which event would you say they should suggest? It may be one, it may be all of them. For me, I think it would be good for some people to appreciate that there is, as Glenn said, something for everybody. So through you, we'll maybe ask people, hey, if you never come before, come check this one out at this venue on this time, because it'll give you a different perspective on what an arts festival is like, and this type of music in particular. All right, when we come back from the break, we'll get Marius to smile and to sing, perhaps. Well, we'll see. He sings in the choir. Join us after the break.
They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway we're introducing the new boneless hot sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walker's Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Talk to Dick. But I do have some questions. Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to for being a part of our discussion. Allowing us to be a part of your afternoon. 1 p.m. Just a quick reminder. Ms. Gina Ebanks Petrie and Mr. John Bothwell will be our guests. But for now, you get a chance to talk to Glenn and Myers about the Cayman Arts Festival. So as we get into the discussion, continue, Myers, as you wish to share. But I was just going into the break. If there is an event that you would say to someone, check it out. Either you or both, if you would share, please.
I will mention one event, and maybe Glenn has another one, because two different persons everybody is coming with. I would say, because it's the first time when we have in our festival a play, that might be the one that I will suggest the audience to think about it, and maybe they would like to come. It's something that relates to the Caribbean region. It's a story of a slave from Bermuda that wrote her story. The play is called Sold, the story of Mary Prince. It was recommended to us from the executive director of Bermuda Festival of Arts, and said that it has a great success there, so we can try to have it here. There are actors from UK, and it will be our last event. So it will be on a Sunday evening, 26th of February, 7 p.m. at Harkwell Theatre. They can find tickets at CaymanArtsFestival.com on the website. That might be one of the events. For me, I would love people to come to every event. We have jazz, we have cabaret, we have classic guitar, we have piano, we have choirs, we have swanky kitchen band. So we have from everything. But if I want to choose one, is that one, because it's the novelty of what we have this year. Maybe Glenn has something else now.
If I were to choose one, as much as I'm looking forward to going to all the events, there's one event by the visiting British pianist, someone called Peter Donohoe. And for those other pianophiles out there who know, who the big movers and shakers are at that level, he's one of the people I grew up listening to and literally being in total awe of. Some people have literally said sometimes it's like listening to God playing. It's that good. And he's a phenomenal musician, an incredible pianist. Many pianists all respect him. And he's just got this incredible capacity for, this big repertoire. He's very well known for Rachmaninoff that he plays as well. And he's playing a program that has got some wonderful variety to it, but really shows him at his very, very best, I think, which I was very excited when I heard he was playing this repertoire. And again, I want to thank my former teacher, Mr. Martin Roscoe, for inviting him, because he wouldn't be coming if he wasn't invited by his friend, who's someone he performs with all the time. So when Mr. Roscoe was here in 2019, he messaged Peter Donohoe and said, "Would you mind coming here? They'd like you to come." And it would never be on his radar in terms of the circuit he normally travels on, but he accepted, and I think he'll be very surprised by how warm the audience is here, and he'll really enjoy his time here. And it's also an opportunity for us to showcase the wonderful instrument that we have, courtesy of the All Foundation as well. And you're almost waiting for an instrument that's, he can do justice to, or that will do justice to his abilities, so you can actually see what he's capable of doing. I know there won't be very many tickets available for this event because it's not in a large venue, but it's going to be very, very probably oversubscribed. But he's a phenomenal pianist and somebody that we all look up to, in the piano world. So so he'll be coming here on the 23rd of February.
At St. George's as well.
St. George's, amazing pianist. Goodness, people will be shocked by what they hear. And he's a phenomenal mind as well. Very, 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 very witty and interesting.
The question that is coming usually is like, okay, how you bring a great pianist in a smaller venue? This is one of the issues that we have. Finding venues, it's really, really hard, and I want to thank now Cayman National Cultural Foundation that allowed us to have some of the events at Harkwell Theatre, because this is the main difficulty that we have at this moment, to put together the concerts and to find the right venue for it. So don't blame us that the event is at St. George's. St. George's is an amazing venue, but can host about 150 persons there.
And this is, as Glenn was sharing, and perhaps, for me personally, to be able to host this show, I get introduced to a variety of things. I get to learn, about different things, whether it's the arts or the artists. But it also shares with us in the Cayman context, with great respect. Those who live and work here may think that the world even knows where we are, that we exist. But there are 50 billion people in the world, depending on which number you pick. Maybe it's only 4 these days, who knows? And many don't know. What do you mean there's a place called that? Or they may have a perception of what it is. As you said, Glenn, to have an instrument of that caliber, but to be able to have someone who plays it, or someone who plays at that level and not have an instrument. Can you imagine giving Pele, to go on a football field and you laugh?
Exactly. And I mean, you still see the greatness of his abilities, but you just don't see it to the fullness of what it's capable of, or what it's capable of doing. So that's one thing I'm really looking forward to seeing as well.
Right. And I think I think it's the second with Benil. Is it? Yeah.
Second, yes. This Thursday.
This Thursday, yeah.
Yes, this Thursday.
Today. Honestly, last week I was a bit off. Which day was what? This week I know today's Friday. Yeah, so we're good.
Yes, today is Monday, but soon it'll be Friday. This is how I feel the past week.
And Benil.
This week we have the first event. It's on February 2nd, Thursday, 7 p.m. Harkwell Theatre. The second event will be on 4th, Westin Ballroom Hotel. It will be from 7 p.m. With one exception, all events will be at 7 p.m. The exception is Music at the Library, the event will be from 6 p.m. That's the tradition that we have there, and we have to keep that one the same. That will be 6 p.m.
It's on the 9th, right?
Yes, that will be on the 9th.
That's swanky.
It's a swanky kitchen band. Having more interviews here, we will focus on each week on those events, and we'll have some performers coming here to speak. So at this moment, we'll just present overall, and we just kind of focus on what happened in the first week. What else? We have the price of the tickets. Somebody was asking me, it's inflation. Why did you? What happened with your tickets? Usually the tickets, they are $40, maybe 45, depends on the venue. This time, all the tickets, they are $30, and for students, $10. You can find them at CaymanArtsFestival.com on the website under events. All of them they are hooked to the link that will make you to purchase the tickets. So we decrease the price of the tickets.
And hopefully it will not only increase the access and availability to the audience, but show the appreciation of the importance.
That's our goal. That's our goal. As many as possible.
But venues, I mean, even the biggest football stadium has a capacity.
That's right.
So if people want tickets, they should start to look, I don't know, Because some events are almost sold out.
There are 2 events that they go towards the sold out sign. The Juilliard Jazz Ensemble, there are a few more tickets, and Alexandra Whittingham, the classic guitarist that will perform at Kamana Bay Cinema. Also, it's almost sold out.
Yeah. And those are the 2 events, that I think when we look at the local or the business national, they have a particular appeal.
Yes.
And so for the Cayman audience, I don't recall, but there's been 1 or 2 over the years where those individuals would not have been performing here. And the ability to even see them if you travel elsewhere or lived in their cities would have been challenging. The lady some years back that was, it'll come back to me, but I remember interviewing her. Yeah, we had a number of performers here who you were reminding me, just to get to have a larger venue in their cities, you still probably couldn't get tickets. Yeah, they were right here.
That's true.
Yeah, so we've had that access. I think it's important that we don't, overlook that and give credence to the organization and organizers like yourselves and the appeal that is the Cayman context. But I wanted to ask, so when we come back from the break, there are many who listen and there are many who have commitments and like so much. Tomorrow we'll get it to it tomorrow. It'll be the next time, and there might be perfectly. But if we miss it, there won't be this time. So I'm thinking, how do we gather this to appreciate, especially for our students with the master classes, but even us as adults? So we can talk about that when we come back. And now, please, be mindful that after the headline news at 1, Mr. Gene Ebanks, Petrie, and Mr. John Bothwell will join us as we talk about feral cats. All right, that's coming up in about 17 minutes. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Savannah Pharmacy, proud sponsor of Talk Today, Cayman's #1 call-in talk program. A new year upon us. Upgraded resolutions. Some things change. Some things linger. When it comes to who you trust, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy, Savannah Pharmacy, is here, where everybody knows your name. Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
Apply today to the Walker's Scholarship and Legal Training Program. You will join the Walker's Scholarship and Legal Training Program, knowing that you will be offered more, both throughout your time in the program and after qualifying as a Cayman Islands attorney at law. Preparing Caymanians for a career of excellence through mentorship, opportunities, repetition, and experience. Be sure to have your application submitted by 28th of February 2023. Visit the careers section at walkersglobal.com to find out more about Walker's Cayman legal scholarships, articles of clerkship, qualifying work experience, and legal internships.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad had taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And hopefully, as you get into the week and the Monday becomes ever more productive, and you're not just pensive, but you're looking at life and saying, "Wow, spectacular!" Well, Cayman Art Festival, the month of February, the month long. To Marius and Glenn, thanks for sharing with us. So we've got events coming up, as you said, every week. There's a few things on, and they go through. But for the music at the library on the 9th. All events will be at 7 p.m., that one at 6. So it's a very convenient time for people. If they want to go beforehand to finish up, they want to get back. You've sounded very deliberately in your attempt to ensure that venues are accessible, the timing is convenient, you can still get back home in the evening, and it's not late. So thank you for being considerate.
Yeah, I'm glad that we found, I think, the right time, because usually in Cayman everything starts at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kind of decrease a bit just to kind of give some chances to some kids if they still want to come.
Mm-hmm.
The event will finish usually around 8:30, no later than 9, and you still can have a chance to go home and do something else, or you might want to go to a restaurant, and you still have time for that.
Well, this is it, man. And I think as we were asking during the break about the master classes, we're seeing increasingly not just the interest amongst our students, or the continued, instruction by their teachers, but we're seeing the ability. And Glenn, I mean, that has to be inspiring.
Yeah, I'll just speak very briefly to this. One thing I have really noticed, and again, it's not just one person's effort,
right,
but it's a collective effort right across the island. One person does something, another one observes and decides, oh, I can do that too, and they basically bring a lot to the table to sort of help the cause move further forward. But one thing I have noticed steadily over the years is there's been more of an awareness amongst students and parents for the importance of the performing arts in the children's education. And not just that, but achieving levels of excellence that are, in a sense, new to the island in that particular genre, for example. And I'm not talking about just the one or the two or the three people, but it's right across the board. You're seeing higher levels of performance, even with the Young Musician of the Year competition, which we used to have, which we started in 2008. The highest level there is not even the entry level for the finals for what you have in today's competitions, here in Cayman. So I can categorically say that we're very proud of the fact that the standards, you can see the standards sort of getting higher and higher and higher, and more students taking lessons, not just in the private sector, but through our after school program. So many students getting opportunities to pick up an instrument, to work at it, to get tuition at no cost to their parents, or and they're able to develop their talent. And that, to me, is the most humbling part of the whole the whole equation. I look at that and I think, wow, when everybody gets together, see what you can actually achieve. And we're very excited about this. And so the Arts Festival gives us opportunities to work even more, to bring more artists down here, to get them to work with the students to be inspired, not just to learn from them, but to be inspired by them and realize how far they can take this. And that, to me, is the nexus, or the centerpiece of what we do. And one thing that we're most pleased about in terms of the impact it's having on the young people here in Cayman.
Definitely.
I have parents now calling me not for concerts necessarily. They call me for the master classes. I want my child to be at this master class. How I can do it? I have for the one that they come now, when they saw in December, I'll make a bracket. Every performer that is come here by contract has to have master classes. So it's not just come for a concert. It has to be master classes. They have to go in school. Juilliard, the jazz, we have spoken with the head of the department, the deputy of the department of jazz And he said that we are there for master classes. We'll have the concert, but we need to be in schools. They highlighted that. So I have parents, when they saw in December when we were selling season tickets, oh, this lady is coming here for a guitar concert. I want my child, please put him from now on the list. I know that it will be a master class. I have students. 2 of the performers, they are already here. They are in vacation. They just want to spend some time. We don't trouble them at all. They just want to be on the beach. But they called me and said, you know what? I think we can go one of the days in school. So last week we've been at John Gray. So Miss Fran said, I have a few students for double bass and a few students for voice. 2 hours we stay there for the master class. And at the end, I have asked the students, do you like this? Do you want this one? We want this one again. We really want. And we have another one this week, the official master class that we will have. And they will be there.
See, this is where, Glenn, I think back to our many conversations long ago about this vision, this passion. You're an accomplished, pianist, your engineering background, and they're educating you. But me as a parent, as a regular person, how do we make this part of it? We see that discussion and the fruition, the drive of people like yourselves who want it. I'm hoping that as parents, that we'll continue as we do for the academics, as we do for the sports, that we'll give our children an opportunity. I've always believed that in schools, languages and the arts should be the 2 things that are just as accepted and celebrated in access as recess and nap time. It's important for the body and the mind.
I can't stress, and I'll be honest with you, I'm all new to this when it comes to early childhood education. I had no clue what young children between the ages of 0 to 5 are capable of doing until I see it in my own household. And I'm blown away by the fact that I would say, limit what they're able to do.
As parents
we don't really think they're ready for this or they're ready for that. And I've completely blown that out the window now. For me, it's all about exposure. It doesn't matter what they take to in terms of, what meets their interest. Or, they may start something and not really like it, but they've been exposed to it, and that leads them to something else. So for me, I think when parents ask me, I just say, just give your child exposure. Take them to master classes, take them to concerts, take them to anything that's going to give them the exposure. We provide things free of charge. We try and start concerts earlier for kids. It's so important. And that's when they really realize what's possible when they go to a concert. And for those kids, I can tell you something, you will never ever regret it, giving them that exposure, because then it affects the way they see the world. It affects how they develop. It affects their minds. It's like food for the brain, I think. So I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you, Mark, because that's important. I think too many times as adults, parents in particular, we limit without actually understanding and recognizing that we consciously are limited. You introduce your children to everything every day. How much of it is a positive, deliberate introduction? And sadly, inadvertently, we allow them, because of our own actions, to see things that maybe aren't the most positive. But we consciously, you're not ready to go then, this and that. One of my sisters, bless her heart, she would allow me to sit by the piano. Had to be the most horrible sound ever. But she said, keep trying, you get it right. And I'm thinking to myself, now she must have been in pain just to hear me. Right? But it was there, and I wasn't destroying it, and she encouraged it.
Exactly.
And I have a healthy respect for that sort of thing. But Marius, back to you, man. I share that you want that level of not just professionalism but excellence, so that not only the performers, whether they're on island or whether they're visiting, to have the best experience. But I think you're doing it for us as the audience. No matter where you are, this is what it should be like, and so you and your team are making sure it's at that same level.
We do our best with what we have to present these events spotless. Have a group of volunteers that help. We have artistic direction, and people still coming. So, and we add more. That means we do something right here. And I give an example. 1-2 years ago, when the public library was not having the stage that has now, was having the way how it was in the past. And we were having the events there, and somebody that was the president of the Viola American Society, something like that, she came and said, "Oh my God, I don't have in Phoenix," she was from Phoenix, Arizona, "I don't have this type of venue to perform when I want to put events the way how you have here. So you are so blessed with this." And this is just a small venue. I remember when the late Paul Robinson, the former director of the library, a few months before passing away, we were friends and we were meeting all the time. I said, "You have no idea. You brought life back to this venue with your music events, and probably we should have a discussion only what would happen at the library, because we planned some new things there for this year. I've told you we should have our own show."
Well, let's make it happen, man. I like how far Morris has come.
Yeah, Glenn is scared sometimes where my mind is going. So
Glenn, that's encouraging.
It's potential here. It's not that I want to do it. The students push us to do these things. We started with strings, violins and cellos, and look now, there are 300 kids in this program, and they come and they at this masterclass that I was mentioning, and the students that said, "We want more." One of the girls said that, "I have my own music." So she sang something that she composed. "I want to present that one. It's good that I know that you are here and you can help." Yes, let's do it. So they force us to develop what we develop.
Yeah, I'm inspired by what I think is your vision and passion. I see Glenn's, and I say this, that I like the steel drum. I think it's probably one of the most phenomenal instruments. Not just because it was invented here, celebrated by us, right? But when Glenn showed me it in a new light. Prior to that, I only saw it in Calypso. I only saw it in a way that was for celebration. And Glenn said, "Hey, check this out," in his own parlance. And you were able to perform classical on it. It wasn't just about hitting there to get this note. It shows what we're capable of. It's amazing. And I say that to ask us as parents in particular, as we advocate for our children, don't just leave it to teachers to recommend your child for this program, to whatever that is. That as a parent, you draw alongside the teacher and you advocate, you get involved, you become informed, and all of a sudden, it's no longer 1 or 2 or 10 children that the teacher is selecting because for whatever the reason. Now you have a class of 100 or a school of 1,000, and maybe it's all of them with their participation. Right? So that's what what was 300 and soon 30,000. Right?
We aim in the next 2 years to 500. That's the next
close.
2 3 years. 500.
I mean, I think it's definitely possible. And when you talk about it, you speak it into existence, don't they say? Yes. Yep. You basically open your mind as to what is possible and then work towards it without realizing it. But I want to thank Radio Cayman for having us again. Isn't that right, Maris?
Yes.
Give us a chance to start talking about these events. I mean, you guys are always standing right by us, and we're very thankful for it.
It's important.
We'll be here again. We'll have our artists. We'll have maybe some sponsors that will want to come to speak. I have a list here because we have a number of persons and entities that help us, and we really want to thank them, because without them we are not able to put these things together as much as we are willing to do. So we have Butterfield that is coming on board all the time. We have RBC Dominion Securities, RBC Royal Bank, Mr. Robert Lovert and his wife Crystal Ibsen, Walkers. We have Minister of Tourism, Minister of Education, Radio Cayman, Island Heritage, Carrie Olsen, Cayman National Cultural Foundation, National Galleries, and Cayman Islands Public Library Service. So all of them, thank you so much, because they are very supportive.
We look forward to continued discussion throughout the month of February, and hopefully the wider public will see, not just the potential, but the true gifting that is within our community. So thanks. to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great week.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Well, when we return, Mr. Ebanks Preacher, Mr. John Bothwell will come into the studio. We'll talk about something different, but hey, be a part of it. So stay tuned.
Radio Cayman, the voice, the heart, the soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. Government officials, dignitaries, and honorees will gather this Saturday, February 4th at 10 a.m. for the National Heroes Day 2023, honoring volunteerism and charitable service at the Aston Ruddy Centre in Cayman Brac. The event is open to the public. In international news, at least 47 people have been killed by a bomb that apparently targeted policemen praying in a mosque in Peshawar, Pakistan. The mosque is within the tightly guarded police headquarters area. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said terrorists want to create fear by targeting those who perform the duty of defending Pakistan. No group has said it carried out the attack, but it has been linked to the Pakistan Taliban. Lisa Loring, best known for her character Wednesday Addams in the first TV adaptation of The Addams Family in the 1960s, has died at the age of 64. Her daughter Vanessa Fomberg told The Hollywood Reporter she died of a stroke caused by high blood pressure. The Addams Family, which was the first adaptation of Charles Addams' New York cartoons, ran from 1964 to 1966 on ABC. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born September 25, 1947, at Watering Place, Cayman Brac, Royce Adolphus Dilbert was the firstborn son to Helen and Grace Dilbert, née Tibbets. As a young boy, he attended Weston Primary School, then later Gainstead High School in Jamaica, when the family moved there to be closer to his dad, who was chief engineer on Colonel ships. During school breaks, he would work at Hannah's haberdashery store as a wrapper. Wanting to be a seaman and engineer like his dad, shortly after his 16th birthday, Royce would join his dad on the Colonel ship, the Kirk Pride, as a messman, later working on other Colonel ships, for Bawden Shipping on the Merkel, National Bulk Carriers, West Indian Towing Company, and West Indian Lines. Mr. Dilbert would enroll at National Technical School and at age 25, chief engineer license. By this time, Royce had worked his way up the ranks from BR messman to wiper oiler, fireman, second and first engineer to chief engineer.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to the Director, Department of Environment, Ms. Julie Ebanks Preachy, for joining us together with Mr. John Bothwell, the Manager for Legislative Implementation and the Coordination Unit, and also the Secretary for the National Conservation Council. So, Mr. Bothwell, you always wear many hats, avid fisherman, a devoted son. Hey.
Yeah, that's this weekend. I hear the weather's going to be good, so yes.
We should just leave now, just in case. But the alien species regulations, Ms. Gina.
Yes.
Much discussion has been had recently.
Yes.
I almost want to think it's election year, but hey, I'm just listening. So, good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for sharing with us as we invite you, take us through, because a lot of discussion. We've had much here as well as the other programs. So, tell us where we are, why we're here, and where we're going.
Okay, so
The National Conservation Alien Species Regulations were passed last year by Cabinet, but I think it's fair to say that the subject matter that the regulations attempt to address has been under discussion, certainly by the DOE, for many, many years. We have outlined at various levels in various ways the problem that alien invasive species cause for native species on small islands and for small island ecosystems where there are no natural predators to these introduced species. It's not a problem unique to Cayman. It's a problem that's experienced and that has had to be dealt with worldwide in islands all over. You know, whether you're talking about an island the size of Australia, where they have very, very strict alien invasive species controls and legislation, or New Zealand, or somewhere as small as Little Cayman, which is what we're talking about, as part of our issues. So these regulations basically, more than anything else, try to stop that problem from occurring. I thought it was very interesting hearing some of the feedback on the regulations and your show the other day, that there was sort of no acknowledgement that 2/3 of these regulations are actually aimed at addressing the problem from becoming a problem. So we've created a list of controlled or prohibited species. We've made it very clear that if they're here, they have to be registered or disposed of, and that they wouldn't be allowed to be imported again because the risk of them establishing feral populations or becoming problems from an invasive species perspective is very, very great. So 2/3 of the regulations try to stop the problem, and the remainder of the regulations then set out the mechanism for what happens if we have an alien invasive species issue. And we clearly do. So
when we talk about the alien species and the alien invasiveness of it, are we, I think Mr. Walther spoke with us the other day by phone. Just for clarity, are we talking only about cats? Or
no.
What are we talking about? Does it apply to dogs? Does it apply to plants, to people, as I did with Mr. Walther? What does it apply to?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, it applies to both plants and animals, and we're not just talking about cats.
Okay.
That needs to be very, very clear. So alien species are basically plants and animals that were introduced to Cayman, either accidentally or intentionally, but it includes domestic animals like dogs and cats and goats and pigs and so forth. Invasive species are those alien species that become a problem for the native wildlife and the native ecosystems.
Yeah. I think our guest, and I'm glad you clarified, because our guest on Friday did say it's not just the cats. They did reference all those animals that you shared.
Yeah, and it's also problems for people. People may remember us talking about the Brazilian pepper, which is a plant, but it's still an alien invasive species.
Yes. And
it is very toxic, and so we're trying to take it out. But one of the reasons we don't want people bucking up into it. So sometimes these invasive species, as the director said, they're generally we talk about invasive species being a problem for the environment, but it's also oftentimes problems for people as well.
You're right. And I think, Mr. Junior, you shared that 2/3 deal with that, so to be taken out of the environment and move. How so?
Well, it basically 2/3 of the regulations involve us trying to stop the importation of these animals and plants that become issues, that have the potential to become issues in our environment. Several years ago, we did an exercise with other overseas territories that was led by specialists out of the UK and from around the world on trying to forecast some of the alien species that might appear in our jurisdiction, either because of certain modes of transport, ships, airplanes, that kind of thing, or sometimes it's because climate change is driving ranges of species sort of in directions that, are going to be problematic from time to time. So we did this exercise and we sort of listed for all of the overseas territories, species that we should have on our radar.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess all of this points to the fact that the discussion on alien invasive species has not been a recent thing. It's sometimes I get the impression that people feel like this has come out of the blue, like these regulations have come out of nowhere. They most certainly haven't. I think anybody that has worked with DOE will understand that our approach to problems is to try to, first of all, understand the problem properly, understand what the scientific literature is saying currently about the issue, understand the scale and the scope of the problem locally, and then try to come up with solutions that allow us to either avoid or manage those problems here locally. And all of that in the context of best practice that has been established internationally. So
going back to those consultants in the UK and across the globe that you were referencing that spoke to species that could potentially come. Two things. What are some of those species, and have any of those now arrived to our shores?
Yeah. So yes, I mean, some of the species that we're concerned about, some of them are plants, even marine algae, for example, can be potentially an issue. This is going back a long time, but I know that I think the Cuban anole and other species like that were on that list. We have found Cuban anoles here, and we have taken them.
So for those who don't know anole, it's not a politician, but
no, a type of a reptile, essentially.
It looks like
it's a very large predatory lizard.
It looks like
looks like a small iguana, actually, a green iguana. You could. It's different, but at a casual glance, you might think that was a green iguana.
Usually, when we're getting called, it's like, I've got something here. It doesn't look quite right. It doesn't look like it should be here, and that's the kind of call we would have to receive, because that's all we need to hear.
Yeah.
All right. So we've had that. I know. Well, number of years now, people have allegedly seen them. So those. So what are the sorts of things? Again, not people, right? So alien species.
Well, I mean, I can't actually recall the list, but a number of reptiles, some mammals are particularly problematic for us because we don't have a lot of native mammals other than bats. So that's particularly
some snakes
a big
and stuff
issue.
as well.
A lot of the snakes.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to look to say to South Florida, what are they having a problem with, and that's going to be on our list. So the boa constrictors in the Everglades, so no bringing in any snakes. The African giant snails that they have there in other places that are sometimes brought in for food or as pets, please just know they're now on the list of don't bring them in.
So do we have like those snake snails and the like? Have you seen any of there? So we've seen animals, we've seen a couple of other things. What arachnids even?
We've actually had a lot of introductions that have been obviously they haven't turned out to be invasive in that they have some reptilian species and amphibians. So we've got the shovel-nosed toad that's established here now. That's not native. We have lizards that are sort of cousins to our native anoles that have come in and been introduced. So there are other animals that can become introduced that don't become invasive in the sense of the word, that they don't become a problem for either humans, but they're alien anyway.
Or we've just gotten lucky that they haven't exploded. So years ago, someone found it was keen toad or keen toads in it, but managed to get whatever happened to them all. We haven't seen them in quite a while. So we know that sometimes it's an issue of luck that these things haven't taken that step or taken that step yet. There's, I think, corn snakes in certain areas here that become established and stuff. We can't quite get a handle on them, but they.
Monk parakeets, for example, that's a bird. We're trying to save our native birds, some of them, from the predatory situation with feral cats. But we do also have some birds that can become problematic.
Right.
So monk parakeet being one of them, and we've had to take action on those in the past.
So like the situation with the feral cats, probably similar to what I gather, and again I thank Mr. Rothwell for guiding me in that discussion in that direction, with what initially, as I understood, was the public spirited attempt relative to dogs, the prohibited breeds, we're now seeing that almost establishment. So I did reach out to a couple of individuals in the veterinary field prior to this discussion. They said, it's a challenge. We see the dogs coming, we take care of them, they interbreed with other dogs, and now that, my words, that lineage now is passed on. Again, my inference, my words, we sort of didn't do it right then with the dogs. We had a risk potentially of repeating it with the cats otherwise.
Absolutely. And I just think that it's also, I'd like to make it clear that this is absolutely an issue that crosses departmental lines, as it were. Like the Department of Agriculture obviously has control of importation of animals into the Cayman Islands. You have to have a permit to import from agriculture to import a live animal. So we work very closely with them on requests for importation, but I think that it also is worth mentioning that up until the passage of the National Conservation Act, the Department of Environment didn't have any kind of legal framework to allow us to properly address the threat that we were facing from alien invasive species. So it wasn't until the National Conservation Act was actually passed, and that provided a legal framework for us to then promulgate regulations such as the ones we've got here, that we've actually been able to create the tools that we actually need to address, like I said, first of all, the problem starting in the first place or taking hold in the first place, and then what happens when we face the possibility.
So with respect to the 3 islands, I know we're focusing on BRAC from what I gather. Just again for the public who may have missed any of the discussions, as Director, Ms. Gina, what is the extent of the problem, if any, on each of the sister or the 3 islands? Start with Cayman Brac.
Okay, so at the moment we're actually not focusing on Cayman Brac. What we're focusing on is the brown booby nesting population while they are nesting, because we have recorded failure of nests and breeding on the Brac for those birds that are native birds to the island for several years now, and we're extremely worried about the possibility of local extirpation of these species. So that's why we're working on the Brac right now. We're focusing on the south side of the island, on the coast, where the birds are breeding, and on top of the bluff near the lighthouse where the birds are breeding. And we are basically trying to stop feral cats causing those birds to either not, or to abandon nests or abandon chicks, or actually to be killed. And
And I just wanted to, because we've not just publicly but probably been inundated with a number of calls from citizens, in particular in BRAC. And I want to make sure I did not misunderstand what they were saying and asking what you just shared. You said, you're trying to protect the boobies in the BRAC, the bluff in particular, that they're not nesting and what have you. And you're not focused on the BRAC with the feral cats. Is there a program to remove feral cats from the population on the BRAC?
Well, not at the moment. We're going to keep that under review, and I think that if we can, that we will actually try to remove feral cats from the BRAC, because the populations of not green iguanas, of our sister islands, rock iguanas, and our seabirds just can't. We can't sustain this.
And so just to be clear, because unfortunately we've got multiple programs as well as the regulations. So we are removing feral cats from the booby areas.
Yes.
So we don't have a Cayman Brac program. We have a program in Cayman Brac. So if you'll excuse the potential confusion.
Thank you for helping me, because
I don't want us to say something wrong, because people are hearing it one way and we're misinterpreting the question either.
But we are actively trapping feral cats on Little Cayman right now, and that's something that we actually, that the population, the human population, the residents over there, were very keen for us to start this many years ago, but we were prevented from doing that because we had a JR ongoing, that judicial review,
not GRU from Dallas.
Ongoing. Feline Friends in the Humane Society took that out to stop us trapping cats. And so we weren't able to trap cats until that had been resolved, and that took over 4 years.
For those who don't know, because that's been referenced a couple of times, what was the resolution? What was the outcome of that? There was a judicial review. What was the outcome of that?
Right. So in a nutshell, the reason that the judicial review was successful was because there needed to be some regulations promulgated by the Department of Agriculture that specified the poisons that could be used under the animals law to euthanize animals, essentially. And those regulations had not been promulgated. So they did that. They had their consultations with the Animals Welfare Committee that the animals law establishes to advise the Director of Agriculture, etc. And that was really the only legal impediment that the JR was seeking to resolve. And once that was done, it essentially...
And that's been done now?
Resolved, yes.
Okay. And I know that reps in those two entities, either collective or separate, have shared they wanted to be a part of that as part of the negotiation to see how this was being done. But that was not possible.
Well, I think that's a bit disingenuous because we were in very close discussions with both organizations. We exchanged written communication. There could never have been any doubt in their minds what our position was with respect to dealing with feral animals like cats, and also what our views were on the efficacy of the trap, neuter, release programs that were being implemented by them. We certainly completely understood their point of view because they expressed that in writing and verbally in the meetings that we had. So I don't really understand the claim that this is kind of like blindsided anybody. But having said that, we always knew that we would have to do a lot of public education once the regulations were passed and promulgated, because inevitably that is always the case with new legislation. People don't understand some of the nuances. There are provisions that, have been misunderstood and misinterpreted. So, yes, we are absolutely willing, and that's why we're here today.
Well,
not because we like people listening to us or want to be here even necessarily.
Hey, you don't want to be here? Gee, thanks a lot.
We'd much rather be here with you, Thomas, saying happy, like, the music program or something. No, that was a nice one. This,
All right, but we're talking about education, and people may not necessarily understand it. Many in the public, verbally and otherwise, have shared, well, in short order, people will go to jail, be arrested. I think the 3rd of February is the date that's coming up. Tell us about that.
Okay. So I can only say that, the new marine parks regulations were passed several years ago now, and we find ourselves, our conservation officers find ourselves in a position where they're still warning people who claim not to be aware of the legislation. So the Department of Environment has a long history of trying to educate people, trying to get people to understand why the regulations are necessary in the first place, and then when we have them, what they actually mean and how people can keep themselves compliant with the regulations. We do that consistently. We've tried technology. We have the app, as you know, for the marine park, so that it's accessible as possible to people, all the rules, etc. So I just, would like to say that I think we have a long history of implementing legislation fairly and sensitively, and that we would do the same thing in the case of these regulations. Nobody is going out to arrest anybody on the 3rd of February. Our first approach will be absolutely let's educate you, let's make sure you understand approach.
Okay. Now, does the law provide for sanctions such as arrest or significant fines of some have shared?
Yes. So I heard this discussion as well, and I would like to clear that up. So the National Conservation Act puts the maximum penalty under the law as the penalty. Now, despite the fact that it is the maximum penalty, it doesn't read. The word maximum doesn't appear in the legislation. And this is because the drafters have told, when we were doing the NCA, they told us that drafting convention is such that you don't state as the maximum penalty. You state the maximum penalty, and sort of the judiciary, the legal fraternity knows that that's the maximum penalty.
So does it say up to, or does it say...
It does not even say, I don't think it even says up to. It
just says a fine of...
Exactly.
So that is the fine then?
No, it is not the fine.
Okay.
It is anywhere from $0 to that amount, to $500,000, and anywhere from no time in jail to up to 5 years. That's what it actually means.
But that's not what it says.
But it's not what it says, and I can only tell you that we at the DOE realized this would be a problem for people, and we tried to get the sort of moderating clauses and words put in there, but we were told by the legal drafting people that is not proper legal drafting convention, and that this is the way it was. These regulations, sorry, John B., I'll let you, these regulations have their own penalties, and initially, if somebody, for example, feeds feral animals illegally after the specified date, what the regulations actually say is that all that can happen in that instance is that they get basically an order, which is a cease and desist order issued by the Department of Environment. The second offense carries a maximum penalty, I think a fine of $5,000, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And then if you have a third offense, it is at that point that the full penalty can kick in. So even these regulations make it such that a first and second offense don't get the full weight of the National Conservation Act penalty.
I know you wanted to weigh in, Mr. Ball.
I was going to say, if anybody has noticed any of the discussion in public media regarding when we get somebody with 100+ conks and what the penalty for that is, I think we can all be agreed that it's fair to say that the maximum penalty is never applied, under the law, and that's good. That's the case here. It's going to be up to the judge if and when something ever gets that far, but you just need to look at, like I said, what happens when somebody's in there with 100 conks for the third, fifth time, and the size penalties they're getting, to know that the maximum is not kicking in. So we recognize it's oddly written. That's a lawyer thing. We can't defend it as such, but we can just tell you what it is.
All right. Well, I join you, and I will leave the interpretation and arguing of laws to lawyers before courts. We're told there's the spirit of the law, and then there's the intent of the law. And just a cursory read of it, Ms. Gina, I would say, I read it to say, hey, this is the fine and this is the consequence.
Yeah.
But the other thing that just a cursory read, just limited understanding, we have a law and we have regulations. Lawyers have said publicly, and privately, people have shared, law trumps a regulation. One law and another law conflict. So in this case, you're sharing. Let's make sure I didn't misunderstand. The National Conservation Act, as we know, apt to call things. Boy, we love stuff. Says one thing. The regulations on the alien species regulations say another. Two questions: do they conflict in terms of penalties and sanctions? One is more, one is less?
No, I don't think there's any conflict.
Okay.
And I think that legally, and again, I am not a lawyer,
yeah.
Legally, we are not using the regulations to make things more onerous. We've actually done the opposite. So we've used the regulations to dial back the maximum penalty provisions in certain circumstances.
Right.
And that's allowed. What's not allowed is to take a provision in a law and then try to make the regulations make that more onerous.
Okay. Again, this probably sounds like for the lawyers in the courts, but in that case, you stated don't conflict. So if one law says something, and we gather the National Conservation Act is fairly substantial legislation that provides certain acts and consequences for not, and then something else happens. What happens if there is seemingly, from the legal perspective, some conflict, some discrepancies, some is that for the courts? Is that easy to resolve? Or how does that?
I suppose it would be for the courts ultimately, or for the people who are trying to settle the legal matter to agree on some way of resolving the issue.
All right.
But, I mean, that's part of the reason why we didn't draft these regulations.
John, was it you?
They were drafted by the legal drafting department for the government so that they can look at issues like conflicts.
So as we go into the break, just want to ask something and then we can discuss it later. So I really appreciate you guys taking time. But the regulations were passed in November last year by Cabinet. When do they come into force, or are they already in force? Because the 3rd of February was that date. Say, hey, by then everyone will be locked up and fine. So is it that they're effective now? And what's the significance of the 3rd of February?
Okay.
So they are effective now. What it is that it's almost 3 different time periods for these regs. It's all effective now, shall we say. Some are in force now. There was some that was going to come into effect in 3 months' time. Coming to force, and some will be coming into force in 6 months' time. So you're going to be hearing about us talking about these regs for a long time to come, because there's still more of it to kind of kick in. And that was just done in part in recognition of it's going to be a lead period for all these things. But the simplest way to think of this, for anybody, is these regulations are effective now. We should all be following them because it's the right thing to do. And on the parts that maybe aren't quite in force yet until the 3rd of February, or say the 3rd of May for the section regarding the prohibited species, this is a time for people to start getting with the program, if you will, for taking, if they have one of these prohibited species, from saying, I need to call somebody at the DOE and talk about how do I regularize this.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, when we come back, Ms. Gina and John certainly want you to share with us some more. If there is any question or comment you want clarification, give us a shout, 949-8037, 949-6990, or toll free, 1-800-534-8255. Please stay tuned.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Grand Cayman's biggest one-day family fun day is back! The 54th Annual Agricultural Show at the Stacey Watler Agricultural Pavilion in Lower Valley. Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Raffle tickets are on sale now, and for only $25, you can win $20,000 and so many other prizes. Raffle tickets include general admission to the show. For more information, visit them on Facebook or CaymanAgriculture.com. Savannah Pharmacy, proud sponsor of Talk Today, Cayman's #1 call-in talk program. A new year upon us, upgraded resolutions. Some things change, some things linger. When it comes to who you trust, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy, Savannah Pharmacy, is here, where everybody knows your name. Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
The application deadline for Education Council Overseas Scholarships for the 2023-2024 academic year is Tuesday, 31st of January 2023. To apply for an Education Council Overseas Scholarship or learn more about the various scholarship programs before the deadline, please visit the Ministry of Education's scholarship application portal at www.moescholarships.gov.ky or email the Scholarship Secretariat Unit at scholarships@gov.ky. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Education.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Ms. Gina Ebanks, Petrie, the Director, Department of Environment, and Mr. John Bothwell, the Manager for Legislative Implementation, the Coordination Unit of DOE, to talk about the alien species, regulations. If it wasn't that it's, important to be professional and not so jovial, I was to say that the aliens are coming. It's an invasion, but I won't do that. This is not Orson Welles. I don't have that voice, and this isn't, what was that invasion of the body snatchers?
War of the Worlds, yeah.
War of the Worlds, yeah. John likes his science fiction.
I do.
I prefer my... Anyway. I invite you over one day. We're going to have some fish tea and watch some movies.
Sounds good, yeah.
All right. But as we were going into the discussion, could I just quickly come back to the 3rd and this notion that, come on, February the 3rd, people get arrested and like, not trying to be jovial. I know, Ms. Gina, what you shared is that, well, tell us about it. I mean, what happens? I know you shared, first one, second one, third one, but...
Yeah, so, well, first of all, our approach will be initially to educate and inform, and that's the approach that we take with all of the legislation that we're implementing in terms of enforcement. So we want people to really understand the regulations, what exactly they need to do in order to be compliant, and hopefully to understand the reasons and the rationale behind the regulations. That would be really helpful too. But to sort of, I guess the legislators' cabinet decided that they thought that it was, appropriate, and we don't disagree, to put some provisions in the regulations that actually specify what happens when somebody commits a first offense, and then what happens when there's a second offense, or indeed a third offense. So that has basically been put in the regulations as initially you are looking at an order from the Department of Environment, a cease and desist order to stop the activity that you are carrying out that would be illegal under the regulations. The second tier is a second offense is a fine of $5,000. And then on a third offense, then the judge can then apply the maximum penalties, or anything in there, a range from 0 to the maximum penalty that's specified in the National Conservation Act.
Yeah, and that is just Section 18 of these regulations, the feeding or supporting alien or genetically altered species in the wild.
Yes.
It's not the whole thing, it's just that
just for the feeding, yes. Yes.
Yeah. And of course even that second $5,000 fine, it's up to the judge's discretion what it would be.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, with respect to the feeding, I'm just thinking on our casual drive, we'll see people, it would appear, just from observation, that lovingly, feeding the cats and feeding chickens and the like. How that practice and why, we're not going to get into that, but we see that happening. So if people are doing that, there are cats congregated here and they go and they feed them their chickens over there. Both, but first cats, if people are doing that, are they committing an offense?
Yes.
Can they be arrested for that offense?
If somebody is feeding these animals in the wild, if they're feeding them in an area that's not their home or not the property that they have control over, then yes, that's the issue.
Right.
And the issue is that it is just not possible to feed populations of these animals that, like I said, have no natural predators in place, and expect that on a small island you're not going to see serious impacts on native ecosystems and species. It's just a thing, so even the American Vet Association and the Canadian Veterinary Association, for example, they make certain recommendations about, for example, the whole sort of TNR situation, the trap, neuter, release, which has been a big issue, right? They don't recommend, for example, that those activities take place around or in the vicinity of, able to impact a protected area in the U.S. and Canada. Australia just doesn't countenance them because there's some big issues. And Australia is an island. It's much bigger, obviously, but it's got some of the same dynamics happening there that could happen here.
Yeah. I sort of want to ask about TNR, but just for clarity, so this feeding of cats and the consequences for that applied equally to the feeding of chickens, roosters, hens, the fowl?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Any of the alien feral species. Yeah. And this is the thing about the regulations. They're neutral on the species, so It's not about any one of them. This is just in general.
Yeah.
You know, we all know it can't be. It's not good for the environment.
Right. So TNR. Don't be confused with DNR.
No.
So trap, neuter, and release.
Yes.
We were told by people, some have shared it publicly, even on Friday. They feed, I think the phrase was cat colonies. They go there lovingly, spend their own money. They take care of these. They watch over time that the population has decreased simply because, well, they're no longer able to reproduce. In the Cayman context, is TNR a viable solution? I think you alluded to it as being not, but expound on that for us.
Right. So, no, it's not. Our position is that it is not. The scientific evidence does not support it at all, except in very, very limited circumstances where you have populations that have been enumerated and ours have not. So I don't know on what basis the people who are saying that TNR has caused the populations to be reduced are saying that, because we don't have population estimates of feral cats on Grand Cayman, actually on any of the islands. We're just looking at trying to get it now on Little Cayman so that we can make some judgments about the efficacy of what we're doing. So that's the first point, is that the organizations who are engaging in TNR don't have the data to support their claims that it does work here in Cayman. We know that we continue to trap feral animals in very bad shape that haven't been trapped, that haven't been spayed and neutered, that are littered with parasites and disease, and whose lives, other than, you know, getting and eking out the living that they're eking, which sometimes we see plastics and rubber and things like that in their guts. So they're actually feeding on garbage, some of these cats, when we look, the feral cats that we've trapped in the past. So, yeah, I mean, it is just not something that we know, and we have camera traps set out in our protected areas, some of them, that where we see feral cats appearing in the middle of nowhere, not close to human populations at all. Just recently, within the last few days on Little Cayman, 2 feral cats were trapped. These are ostensibly owned cats. That, in other words, they were being fed in association with a colony that was receiving feeding from the folks who are involved in the TNR situation and the feeding situation. The first of the feral cats that we trapped, or that the cats that we trapped from one of the colonies that was being fed on the east end of the island, was trapped in the Mahogany Bay subdivision, which is on the west end of Little Cayman. So these animals are roaming that's the whole length of the island, essentially. Okay? And the second one was from a group of cats that was being fed around the museum in Blossom Village, and that animal was trapped near the dump. So again, it has gone halfway across the island with a broken leg.
And just for those who, like me, wondering, one's on one end, one's on the other, how do we know it's the same cat? How were you able to determine that?
Because it was identified as such. We were able to identify this cat as being part of that colony, of these colonies, because we've registered the cats that people are saying are partly owned.
So we basically said, here's your cat back.
Okay.
How the cats moved around and stuff, you know, they discussions on, but they can travel great distances. But I think this is also part of the issue, though, is that, again, what we're looking at under these regs is feral animals in the wild versus people's pets.
Okay.
These are not pet regulations. We probably need, the country arguably needs those, and there's a lot of discussion that could be had around that. But this is about the feral animals in the wild, not people's pets in their house. Another thing is, we say TNR, but it's really so the R is the release, which that is a problem under these regs. There's a second problem of the feeding feral animals in the wild. And not all TNR programs engage in that, so we just need to recognize that as well, that there's these cat colonies as well as other releases occurring. So there's multiple potential issues, occurring at times depending on who's doing what. But we do try to get a division between feral animals in the wild and your pets in your yard are your pets in your yard to look after. You need to look after them yourself. But that's a whole different story.
Right. We do have a caller join us. Welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hey, afternoon. How are you?
Okay.
Hey, thanks for sharing with us, man.
Good afternoon to you guys also.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for calling in.
Welcome. Dwayne had a guest on his show a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that the killing of the iguanas was illegal, and now the killing of the cats is also illegal. Is that facts or?
No, I would respectfully disagree with that opinion.
Yeah. So I think it there is going to depend on the iguana you're talking about. Obviously, the Caymanian iguanas, the blue iguana in Grand Cayman, the rock iguanas in the Sister Islands, they are protected. Yes, killing them is generally speaking illegal. Cats, not a protected species.
But the green iguana.
But then the green iguana
cull that we're having, that is not illegal.
Yeah.
Those animals are alien invasive species.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
Yeah. So, this is the thing. I mean, we use these terms around the place, but yeah, we got to be clear sometimes on what we're speaking about because it can get a bit confusing. The other one I believe I've heard is, because as you know, the DOE is having a program culling cats and rats around the brown booby nesting sites on the Cayman Brac. And there was some people concerned that for somehow these brown boobies weren't actually protected. And I just want to assure everybody that yes, they are. They're protected under the National Conservation Act. So, Dwayne, you're here. You can kind of act for your listeners, if you will. It's
Madam Speaker, let the record reflect that the honourable member has passed it.
Part 1 of Schedule 1 of the of the Act is species that are protected at all times. If you flip to the second page, you'll see birds are protected. Now, the interesting thing is here, except for game birds, which are a Part 2 species, this was under the old animals law. All birds were protected. That was probably from something in the 1970s.
1976.
Right, there we are. And that protection was simply inherited by the National Conservation Act. What we did realize when we were writing the Act was, of course, we don't actually want to protect all the feral chickens out there. So the Act applies to native wildlife, really. So the brown boobies, native birds, are protected at all times, which is why some of the discussion people have been having about when people are walking up around the bluff trail and stuff, not to disturb the birds. They are a protected species. Feral chickens, no, and so the people currently harvesting feral chickens, not a problem under the National Conservation Act.
So you got the butterflies as well as the little Cayman snail and the like.
Yes,
protected.
Yeah. So certain species where they're endemics, local endemics, or otherwise endangered, are listed there. But then sometimes as categories of animals, such as I said, as the director said, from 1976, the country recognized all of our local native birds were as important to protect them. They were protected from then, and they still are now. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things we wanted to confirm and clarify whether they were protected species. The other callers publicly have shared, their experience growing up. You go around some birds, they're British. You scare them off, they don't come back. And 2 questions. Allegedly, is the booby a similar bird? You go up to its nest, it sees people, it's going to get skittish and skedaddle.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 things. One is the booby is nesting on the ground, so they're very vulnerable to predation from cats who can stalk and are quite stealthy if you've seen them hunt, which is an innate behavior in cats. You can't sort of love that out of them or feed it out of them or take care of it out of them. That behavior is innate and it will come out from time to time. And if pet cat owners are honest, they will remember and recall times when they were brought their little trophies by their cats. I've seen that happen many times. And that's just from cats wandering outside. Just, your well-loved, fluffy, well-cared-for pet cat can still hunt.
Come here, Garfield.
And I think that is something that also people need to take on board with respect to these regulations.
Okay.
But yeah,
We'd have another caller, Mr. Gino. Okay.
Okay.
John?
Callers first.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. We're speaking to Miss Jeannie Ebanks and Mr. John Bothwell. Welcome.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm all right. I'm just tuning in and I just listening into what you guys have to say. From what I collected this morning, Mr. Bothwell was on the show and came on Mall Road as well.
Yes.
And I didn't get to stick around to listen complete facts, but I'm clearly understanding the mission. The thing is, with the culling of the cats, what is the procedures that they're doing for culling the cats? Because I understand it's only in a particular area, maybe where the nesting of these birds are, and I agree to an extent with the culling. And the question remains to me is, how are they going to be doing this culling? Is it like trained one shot, let's get them out one time instead of a torturous way, or like, because I've seen many times where there's neighbors. For example, I have neighbors in West Bay that just do not like dogs in their yard, and it's almost impossible to keep a dog to where they want to go as well. And to ensure that the dog is not an aggressive animal towards humans is completely different from aggressive towards animals. And I was just wondering if it's going to be like how the last caller called in, is it that it's going to be illegal to cull the cats? Because the thing is about it now, if you're going to try and make a mission of killing any animals in order to eradicate their invasiveness, the alien species, is it that the public is going to be involved as well?
So thank you, caller, for that. Lots of good questions there. Yeah. If I can, sorry, you have more?
No, this is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
In general, is it that the public is going to be involved? Like, to break it down to one question.
Yeah. No, I think we can take that one sort of first and then go back to the top if I can, because you got some great stuff in there. No, right now the DOE does not. The DOE is not engaged in a cull using members of the public like the green iguana cull. That's not what we're doing right now. But yeah, your questions are good because they let us talk about a few different things. So right now the Department of Environment has two different culling operations going on. There's the one in Cayman Brack, and they're both very similar but subtle small differences. There's the one in Cayman Brack, which is just happening around some brown booby nesting sites where we are using mechanical traps to trap both cats and rats. In the case of the rats, they're a quick kill trap. In the case of the cats, it is a live capture, and then the animal is euthanized humanely. Little Cayman
by a veterinarian,
by
a veterinary trained nurse or a veterinarian.
Yeah, things of a vet tech type person doing that. But as if you take them to the vet. Little Cayman is a more broad-based operation, but again using in certain areas these rat traps for the rats. In all other areas we're doing for the cat work, which moves around from place to place, it is live trap and then euthanasia. The euthanasia process, and this is only after we've checked to make sure that they're not microchipped, they're not somebody's pet. And when we work, like in Little Cayman or even on the south side of the Brack, around where people might be, we make sure to go around and say, listen, we have a program coming. Can we make sure that your pet is microchipped so that if it shows up in one of our traps, we can give it back to you, which is what we do. We scan them, and they are given an anesthetic, which puts them to sleep. That's just a small injection, and they go to sleep. And then the euthanasia chemical is administered for the kill, so they're ready to sleep, and it happens as if they were at a vet station. Sorry.
Okay, no, I'm just understanding that they're put to sleep before this euthanasia thing.
Yes, that is our program. That's how it's done. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if it comes to an extent where they would need assistance, just like the blue iguanas, because not the blue iguanas, the green iguanas. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes to a situation where they will need the public's assistance, then because to capture all the green iguanas, you guys have a good time trying to catch every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I was involved with the green iguanas as well during the COVID, especially. I got more engaged after all the lockdown and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But
Thank you.
The thing is about this, right? Is I remember when I was doing it, I was on bicycle because it's more easy to just go around with the bicycle and have a bucket, and you can go into the areas where they will usually hang out instead of going in, like driving into an area where you would think that it's going to be like a farm raised thing that you can just shoot and kill.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is about it, right? The homeowners, when you guys are doing it, is it going to be like a report? Hey, there's a cat in the yard that is really giving trouble to the people and the individual homeowners, and if they do not want the cat to be in the area, if the cat belongs to somebody, let's just say the neighbor next door, if they decide to get that cat killed, is that something that you guys make sure that, okay, is this cat registered then at that moment? Because it would be an advisor to register the cat if it's not registered.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I think, as Mr. Bothwell said earlier, that we always try to ensure that wherever we're operating, that the pet owners in the area have had the opportunity to identify and register their cats hopefully through microchipping, because that's the most sort of fail-safe method. But we give people the opportunity to identify their cats, and when we catch a cat in a live trap, we scan it to ensure that it isn't microchipped, and you can usually tell a cat when it is really truly feral, and when it has been, as distinct from a cat that has had any kind of interaction regularly with humans, being fed and cared for, etc. But we do try to get people to engage in the microchipping. That certainly was very successful on Little Cayman. And we're also engaging in the same way with the people, as John said earlier, around the areas where we're working on the BRAC, because at the moment that is literally only around the booby nests on the south side and up by the lighthouse on the bluff.
Yeah, but Caller, you do raise an important point. I also want to thank you for giving us a chance to bring up. Is that
I think that the TNR works out pretty fine. It's just that I'm wondering if the TNR is being instructed to the owners of the property that has these cats that are being trapped, to make them understand that if this cat is going to be domesticated to be TNR, because it's going to be a clip air thing that indicates that the cat has been neutered or trapped before, and to ensure that the cat has its own safety in the perimeters that they are allowed to be in. And it's just like hunting in the United States. Like, if I'm a bear hunter and the bear is inside of a person's property, I cannot go into the person's property and shoot and kill that bear if I do not have permission.
Exactly. So, and that's what I was going to say. For individuals, nothing has changed under these regulations. So, if you're going to catch a chicken, one of these feral chickens that's out there, you have the responsibility to make sure that it's done humanely and that it's not someone's pet chicken. And you can apply that to any other feral animal that's out there. That didn't change with the regulations coming into force. It does not permit people to do anything they couldn't do before. And let's just be very clear about this. It does not in any way permit animal cruelty.
I completely agree.
I know you do. So that's why I say thank you, because it helps us to make that point.
And it also doesn't negate or get rid of the need for you to check if you want to go onto someone else's property. There's all the trespass laws still apply, etc. So none of this changes any of those underlying legal requirements.
And no taking people's pets.
Ask for permission under the owner's first-hand permission to get into a property to do your culling, like how I used to do with the iguanas. So like, this is why I was asking, like, if it is something that, like, say, for example, you have a homeowner that really doesn't trust certain people in their yard, and they call you up, like, to say, okay, yo, hey, can you come here because I have an issue with this? And is it something that you guys, is a report to you guys, or it could be an independent report, like, individual that they can trust to do something for them?
No. If it's in relation to anything other than the green iguanas, for which there is an established program and a reporting procedure, you should contact the DOE.
Okay. All right. And just to be clear, we are not running culling in any of these other areas. We're not sending cullers out to any areas. The DOE is only doing culling program on Little Cayman and around the booby nests on Cayman Brac. So if you call us up from Bawden Town, no, we're not coming after those cats. We don't have a program for it. Sorry.
Not at the moment. Our focus is on the sister islands because that's where the threat to our native species is currently the greatest.
All right, we're going to go into the news break. We got 2 other callers. If they're able, we certainly appreciate their extended patience. We'll join them right after.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. In the forecast tonight, partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the mid-70s Fahrenheit. Winds will be east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet. Small crafts should exercise caution over open waters. In international news, a 6th officer has been suspended amid an ongoing investigation into the death of Tyre Nichols. Preston Hemphill was one of the police officers who initially stopped Mr. Nichols for an alleged traffic violation prior to his fatal beating. 5 other officers have been fired and charged with second-degree murder. The video footage shows Mr. Nichols was kicked, pepper-sprayed, and hit repeatedly with a baton by police officers. He died 3 days later in hospital on January 10th. Couples in China's Sichuan province will be allowed to have as many children as they want as the country continues to try and get a grip on its declining population. Last year, the population in China fell for the first time in 60 years. For decades, the country had a one-child policy, increased nationally for married couples to 3 in 2021. As part of the policy change in Sichuan, unmarried individuals will also now be able to raise children. Previously, there was a ban on single women registering a birth. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky. Savannah Pharmacy, proud sponsor of Talk Today, Cayman's #1 call-in talk program. A new year upon us. Upgraded resolutions. Some things change. Some things linger. When it comes to who you trust, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy, Savannah Pharmacy, is here, where everybody knows your name. Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza, open Monday to Friday 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
J&M Money touching down again. Now you can send your US dollars at any location on island, including the BRAC. It's easy. Just walk with your US dollars. No need to convert to CI. This is another convenient service available at J&M Money. They always find a way to make it easier and hassle-free. So remember, when you need to send your money and you only have US dollars, don't ever think of what to do. Just head straight to any J&M Money location and send your money the fast, convenient, and affordable J&M Money. J&M Money, touching down again. J&M Money, ranga to la friend.
Cayman Arts Festival 2023. From New York to London, landing in Cayman. 8 landmark events, global music on the island's stage. On Thursday, February 2nd, 7 p.m. at the Harkwell Theatre, hailing from the Big Apple, jazz pianists and top jazz and cabaret performer John Weber joins our very own Caymanian Benil Miller. Tickets are available at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries@caymanartsfestival.com. John Weber and Benil Miller, Thursday, February 2nd, 7 p.m. at the Harkwell Theatre.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks to Mr. Gene Ebanks Petrie and Mr. John Bothwell for joining us as we talk about the alien species regulations. And to our callers, we do have one other caller, I'm told, respectfully. Hey, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Mr. Dean.
Hey, good afternoon, how are you?
Right, yeah, boy.
Good to hear from you, man, been too long.
I know. Just checking out certain things, man, but I don't got one of them feral cats, but I won't wish my mother happy birthday today, man.
Well,
this was awesome in the bra.
You want us to play a song for her after the show?
Yeah, tell her that Bob Marley song, man. Coming in from the cold.
all right. Well, we can do that for you. Right, Carl? Yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right.
If they can be better than the boobies and understand that you can probably train the cats to catch the rats.
Mm-hmm.
I think we would do better. Probably catch the iguanas too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I don't want to take away from the importance of your call, and certainly we will join you in wishing your mother and play the song for her at the end of the program, right? But I've only got a few minutes left for today. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, bless it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, man. Good to hear from you, man. And we need to catch up soon, all right?
Yes.
All right, take care, man.
And Dwayne, if I can just pick up...
with an onion.
All right, take care, bro.
If I can pick up from the caller, because he did make a point there that one of the issues we hear people talking about is rats. We know that's a concern. The research internationally suggests that actually cats do not control rat populations. Rat populations are not top-down controlled by predators. It's bottom-up based on food availability. When there's an explosion of food, whether that somebody has dumped stuff out improperly, or all the fruit trees are bearing, the rat population will go boom, and then as the food falls away, they go bust because the rats just outbreed the cats as fast as cats breed. What cats do is they make the rats more skittish. They make them hide more. So one of the things we're doing in the Little Cayman program is putting out rat traps to sort of monitor the rat population as well as we're doing the cat removals. The other thing is looking at what the cats that we're catching are eating. And the reports are we're really not seeing much, if any, evidence of them eating rats. They're taking other animals, small lizards, which is basically things the size of a baby rock iguana, or small birds, amphibians, that kind of thing. So we know that people are concerned about the rats, but rats need their own control program. If there's a rat issue somewhere, feral cats are not the solution to rats, unfortunately.
All right.
Yeah.
I believe you have another call. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Sterling.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Pretty good, thanks, bud. How you doing, man?
Boy, thank God for the health and strength, presence of mind, good country to live in, wonderful people around, and a good friend who reminds me, I should take care of myself. So, hey, it's a good day, my friend.
Boy, that sounds good. I'm just looking there at the north sound, so you can't beat that right now. I got the ears. So,
I'll tell you what, I'll use your lens to see the white caps.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm looking at. Good afternoon to Miss Ebanks, Director, and good afternoon, Mr. Boston.
Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Man, John, you just messed up the little nursery rhyme song, dog eat the cat and the cat eat the rat. You just destroyed that.
I like when the cat's away, the mice will play. So. Yeah.
Fair enough. I just wanted to, I wasn't going to call, but I wanted to make sure it was clear, so I decided to call on a couple of things, or at least one thing I heard today, and that is to say, I might clear that the feral or wild, is that a synonym, or is there something specific about feral?
But for our discussion, we can use it as a synonym, yeah. We just use feral because it's really the ones that are having trouble out in the wild, but that's because of the, legislation. You got to write it a certain way, so it make it complicated. But yeah.
You so something can be wild but not feral, or feral and not wild, kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, you almost could have that.
Unless you talk about people.
Yeah.
But like you say, for us, for right now, we'll use them interchangeably.
Very, very interesting. So in that context, and I promise you that I would sense that. So the wild Cayman fowl. Did I hear you say that was considered an invasive species? Is that why it hasn't fallen under the protective thing? Or is the reason why it's not protective or protected in the sense, is because we want to encourage people to necessarily try to feed on them?
No, it's not protected because it is not a native species. Those wildfowl were brought here by people.
Stop a second. You're saying fowls are not native?
Yeah,
no,
but we're talking about chickens, right?
Yeah, chickens, fowls.
We're all on the same page, good. Yeah, they are not native. They came here with people.
Okay. Well, I'm sure at least a couple of you guys in there, they're older than me. But and I mean, in my lifetime, I had to go to the fowl coop to collect. We're talking about eggs, eggs from the fowl coop. And I, heard my grandparents talking about fowls being here for a very long time. I don't know when they become native, how many years they become native, and I don't think too many of what we have running around here now. This is just my layman sort of interpretation. Because we kind of know how that happened. We became too good for the fowl coop, and then Ivan just kind of helped lift that. And so we don't want to go outside and pick eggs anymore. We want to get them from the grocery store, and we've seen how that's becoming full circle again. But I guess that's a little confusing to me, because to not call them native when I don't think there were too many people come here with boats with fowls, unless you guys have evidence otherwise. We just naturally, they became feral, they became wild, and so that's hence why it's certainly a good example about how things can develop, because even while I had to go to the fowl coop to collect eggs, I didn't see wild chickens when I was young running around like how we are now. So it's obvious that you can have a reproductive situation going on within a species, as you so rightly said, and so I understand what we're trying to do. But that was a little confusing for me. I was like, well, okay, they're not protected. Perhaps they're not protected because we want to encourage people to necessarily try to eat them, and maybe we should get something going here. That was part of a bigger vision that I had some time ago. But that was interesting. So when does something not become or when does it become native? Because I'm confused by that. I really am.
Okay. So we refer to native species in the biological sphere as plants and animals that existed in the islands before human settlement.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so when we say we're trying to protect our native species, they've been here a really, really long time and before us.
So fowls are pretty. We're pretty sure that we studied their background and they weren't here.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, would they ever become native? I'm just kind of thinking. I guess I
No.
ask them with the Kimanian nowadays. All right. Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you very much. You know, I strongly support you guys. And I said as much publicly. I know we don't always get it right because, you know, I was a big opponent of your mosquito program. I think we messed that up entirely, and hopefully with the new regulations, we'll never see an invasive thing being let go to millions like that again. But the DOE is a light in our community, and so just to say thank you again, man. Thanks.
Thanks very much for your support.
Thanks for
We
calling.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we can always have nice disagreements between people and make it work out. You're absolutely right. Dwayne was talking about that. The other was talking about earlier today. And it also makes this point that we'd have to use alien too. Yeah.
All right. One more?
Sorry.
All right. All right. The house wins. Let's go to the phones. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm on special welcome to your guest who's on both raspberries, so that's the pre-raspberry bowl right there today. But I am really, really perturbed hearing that fowls, and I'm 72 years old on Wednesday, and fowls, when I was a child, we had 2 fowl coops, 2. And I'm going to tell you that in case any of you that are not old enough to know that, but I'm sure going to go home, and a mama and papa, those that have a blessed memory, still have their parents, would be able to tell you that when a child first cut their teeth, they were gifted with things, mostly not monetary, because money wasn't flowing them days either. But I can guarantee you 3 people in there today, I had about 10 fowls that were gifted to me when my teeth were cut. And they were all by the same people, which they call them godparents. Now, well, I guess all over Caymanians called even people that wasn't family, grandpa, uncle, auntie, and everything respectfully. And this is really big. So I could suggest that the people that are working at this, they can give humans Cayman status. Then I think the starter should live that end, because that is from my time. And I have tried now to even say to my grandchildren, maybe this is what I'm going to need to do, start to get something that you can have to bring food to the table, raise them and do them the right way, because once they were cooped up, we also ate them. My mother never ate chicken, but she cooked it for us. I can remember the taste right now, how great it was, and I'm sure you all ate it as well. I'm sure of that. Somehow, sometime, not even knowing maybe there was a local fowl. But this is really, really, I'm listening to the program, and when it came on the fowl part, I really laughed a lot today, but then got a little bit angry. So I trusted them to find somehow to make them part of Cayman, because we don't have much of anything that's left as our culture or heritage, but that I can guarantee you we had from the time I was a little girl. Okay?
Thank you very much, Mom. Thank you.
Yeah,
have a good
thank
afternoon.
you all very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Well,
I'd just like to respond to say that these regulations will not prohibit or prevent people from keeping their chickens in their fowl coops or in their runs in their yards. What we're trying to suggest is, and we're not really tackling the chicken problem at all right now, but because actually, frankly, we don't see that as the Department of Environment's role. We're certainly happy to participate in any kind of national program that gets put together to deal with feral chickens, those chickens that are just sort of roaming. I see them even now in 7 Mile Beach. Coming to get food and so forth from people. But just to say that these regulations wouldn't prohibit an individual from taking into captivity chickens that are running around and keeping them for eggs, or and indeed to raise, other chickens to eat or whatever. That is not the intent of these regulations. All we're trying to do is to prevent the wild population of chickens that's out there from becoming any worse, essentially. And it's not a focus of the department's work right now, but it is a fact.
All right. So when we come back from this quick break, perhaps we invite you and hopefully extend some time for you to continue to share with us. Please join us right after.
Between the traffic, the meetings, kids' activities, there just isn't enough time. Best Health Pharmacy was a game changer. Not only are they centrally located on Eastern Avenue, but they deliver prescriptions for free anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. I could not believe it. When my prescription ran out, they ran it back to me. Best Health Pharmacy, located at Crown Square Plaza on Eastern Avenue, across from Edie's Decor, offering free prescription delivery anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. Call 949-1301 or WhatsApp your prescription to 924-5358. Best Health Pharmacy. Your health, your convenience is their priority.
Savannah Pharmacy, proud sponsor of Talk Today, Cayman's #1 call-in talk program. A new year upon us. Upgraded resolutions. Some things change. Some things linger. When it comes to who you trust, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy, Savannah Pharmacy, is here, where everybody knows your name. Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway we're introducing the new boneless hot sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
Freedom, Cayman Rack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to the Miss Jeannie Ebanks and Mr. John Barfield for sharing with us. As we look at the time, thank you so much for sharing with us. We just wanted to clarify something that was said from, to emphasize one of our message.
Mm-hmm.
Respect to the culls for the feral cats. The people who are coming to do that. Now, we know it's not like the Green Iguana program. So the people who come around to do the trapping, and they're like, are they contracted staff? Are they DOE staff? Are they really identifiable? I mean, just for clarity, so that we understand.
Yeah, so the DOE staff are conducting the work on the BRAC and the sister islands. We are working a project that is related to all of this with the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, the RSPB, and part of their work is to basically do a feasibility analysis for us for removing, actually removing feral animals from Little Cayman for sure. And, you know, depending on what we see over time as we're working on the BRAC, whether we think it would be feasible on Cayman BRAC. But it is Department of Environment staff. We do have a contracted person working with us on the BRAC, but that person has worked with us in the past. They're Caymanian. They've worked with us in the past in various programs as a volunteer. So they're helping on the BRAC to do the observations, check the traps, etc., because we are obviously resource strapped. But it's not been outsourced, as it were. We are definitely in control of the programs that are happening on the sister islands at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, not being over there, but I think you'll know us by we'll pull up in a DOE truck kind of thing. And we're not coming up around people's property without having talked to them first. So anywhere we are, as far as I understand it, anywhere we are setting our traps, we've talked to the landowners already and gotten permission to do so. So anybody who's seen us is because they know we're coming there, kind of thing. We're not just showing up. It's not a call like the Green Iguana Club was.
And in the trapping, I think Mr. New referenced, just so we got two, and the trapping, just for clarity, is happening in both on the BRAC and Little Cayman, only Little Cayman, or
okay. So say it again.
Yes,
we're running two related but separate projects. On Cayman BRAC, our efforts are around the brown booby nesting populations only. So we're not working island-wide on Cayman BRAC. We are trying to protect those nesting seabirds because we have had observations and evidence of failed nests, dead chicks, dead parents, abandoned, chicks, etc., over the last few years, and we are very worried. We have evidence that feral cats have been involved in the demise of some of these breeding animals and their chicks. So we are basically trying to take action against one threat. We know it's not the only threat, and that is evidenced in our conservation plan for seabirds. We lay out all of the threats to the animals. We completely accept that feral cats are not the only threat to our seabird populations, but they are a threat, and they're a significant threat, and it's something that we feel we can do something about. So we are trapping feral cats and rats around those nesting areas on the south side in a very discreet area, and up on the bluff near the lighthouse in the nesting area. On Little Cayman, we are doing more extensive work where we are trapping wider on the island, because this is where we had initially started our cat control work before the judicial review bit, basically. And because we know we need to do something, we've had to head start our sister islands rock iguana populations. The young of year from the populations for the last 2 years have had to be head started because we were not seeing any recruitment, and the age class structure of the population is indicating that the young are being killed. They're dying. They're not there in the way that they should be. They should represent the vast majority of the population, and they're not. And so that's a very worrying signal to us. We don't want to get to a situation where we have to also have a captive breeding program to save our sister islands rock iguanas in the same way as we have for the blues. So we have a successful breeding program for the blues, and we have repopulated the wild with blue iguanas. But the fact of the matter is that we cannot stop that breeding program because the threats that caused the near extinction of this unique species to Cayman, which include feral animals like cats, are still there. And still acting on the populations. And we know this because we see them on camera traps that we set out, for example, in the middle of the Salina Reserve.
I think one final quick call. I do recognize the time. To our caller, thank you very much for joining us. You will be the last call.
Hi, hello, good afternoon. Thank you for accepting my call. I had a quick question because I asked this question to Mr. Bothwell the other day and it was avoided, or at least the answer certainly wasn't just to the question that I asked, which is what the intention behind Regulation 16 in the regulations is, which permits private persons to destroy alien species or genetically altered species without any oversight by any regulatory authority, without them being able to identify properly what is or what is not an unowned animals, so to say, because people are not running around with microchip readers. Is this not just a excuse for people to do whatever they will with these animals without having any accountability for it? We already failed miserably in regulating animal cruelty on these islands. So this just seems like opening a can of worms for no reason whatsoever. And then the second question was, why would you prohibit PNR, for example, on Grand Cayman, pending any sort of program that is intended to, as an island-wide cull for alien species, when we know that that's only going to increase the numbers? We have heard, every once in a while a non-neutered or spayed animal will feed from a feeding colony, for example, but that still doesn't address why PNR is being prohibited, when all that does is reduce the number of animals that are already there, whereas these regulations preventing that will only serve to increase these feral animals and provide them with even less control mechanisms, because the government isn't doing what these bodies did previously here in Cayman.
Thank you for your call. Thanks for calling back. I'm sorry that you thought we didn't get to it last time. And you're right, we did kind of get cut off from that. So just to pick up, what is the intention behind Reg 16, letting private people, take feral specimens? So there's a couple of parts to that. One is on the, if the Department of Environment ever does need to contract out work and stuff, it is in there. Two is very much, it allows people to keep doing what they're already doing. Hunting agoutis, for example, is still, we need to make sure that would still be legal under these regulations. We didn't want to, cause that kind of problem. The taking of feral chickens that people are already doing now, we didn't want to, as your previous caller alluded to, we didn't want to stop that. That's that's an okay thing from a wildlife management perspective. We have bunny rabbits to separate them from the agouti, but we have bunny rabbits popping up in certain places now that would appear to be wild and feral, given the locations where they're being found and reported. And again, around the world, this is a food source for people. If someone wants to hunt the bunny rabbit, that is not your neighbor's pet. We don't want to outlaw that by accident. The caller does make a very good point, though, that this is not about going after your neighbor's pet. And just to reiterate, this does not give you any kind of permission or authority to take out your neighbor's pet or to be cruel about it. That has not changed under these regulations. That is still the case, and these regs do not change that whatsoever.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brother, but what does happen is these regulations are drafted in a way that's far too broad to achieve what you're saying you're trying to achieve, in my opinion, because it covers so much more than what you have just stated in regards to outlawing agoutis hunting, for example, which, the way that this law is drafted is it seems to entice and encourage the kind of behavior which you would actually want to discourage from the public, which is the harming of animals. And there's no protection here. No one is going to provide oversight over this, because we already don't have proper oversight over animal cruelty. So in my opinion, this was drafted far too broadly, if that's actually what you're trying to achieve, and provides, a mechanism which is very, very easy to abuse.
Thank you, and you're absolutely right. This is not animal cruelty regulations. It's also, as we keep saying, not proper pet ownership regulations. Those are separate issues that we are not the people to be regulating. They may, I think very strong arguments could be absolutely made that the country needs to get into that, and is in fact needed it for quite a while. I know people have been talking about that in other government agencies, the need for that. Absolutely correct, but that is not what these regulations are, and the protections that were in place before these regs still remain in place with these regulations, and I think we're being very clear about that.
I think it's going to be very difficult for private persons to identify what is and what is not an owned animal, and then have ostensibly have authority to take out an animal which they claim is not owned. For example, someone's cat gets out and they have a crazy neighbor. It's very easy to abuse this type of regulation can be abused so easily as an excuse to conduct a destruction of an animal which you reasonably believed was not owned, whereas there's no provisions in there whatsoever that control how a person, as it currently is under the animals law. The animals law require you to take an animal, which is a stray that you find, and bring it either to a police station or the DOA. That's reasonable, but to permit people the power, especially when you're including things like cats in the description of alien species, is just irresponsible.
But the regulations of the animal law still apply, even with these the rules of the Animals Act still apply even with these regulations. That has not changed. Thank you for reminding the public of that. We keep saying that the Animals Act is still in force.
Yeah, it's primary legislation.
Yes.
Take precedence over regulations in this instance. So, these regulations really do nothing to enable a person to destroy an animal. If that's the position you take, then the animals law has to be followed for strays.
Absolutely. And the other thing this does is it reminds everybody that they have to make that, that they have to try and think about that. We wanted to make sure to put as much as we could into this without stepping onto the animals law.
Okay, thank you.
I would just take up the second part of your question, which is why prohibit TNR on Grand Cayman if we're not actually actively working here. So I just want to make it abundantly clear that the regulations do not prohibit the trapping and spaying and neutering of animals. We encourage this. We encourage the continued trapping and spaying and neutering of stray cats in particular, feral cats, because we understand that there are just too many of them out there and they need to be taken in, and we need to capture them and spay and neuter them. And in our world, that R stands for rehoming. What we cannot condone is release back into the wild, because that is a deliberate decision to put something in the wild that will then cause harm, will kill, will interfere with breeding of our native species. So that is the problem we have with the TNR. It's not the spaying and neutering, which I think, unfortunately, that has come across. It has been spoken as if we are against spaying and neutering of animals. That is absolutely not the case. What we are against and what we cannot condone is the release of these spayed and neutered animals back to the wild, because they continue to have the effect that they are already having on our native species.
Okay, thank you for that. But the problem with that is these cats are already in the wild, and TNR is based on the concept of release. So either you can have people trapping, neutering, and releasing cats, thereby reducing the ability for those cats to create more cats, or you will have no one doing that, and the cat population will just grow out of control. I understand that your concern is the release, but these cats are out there anyway, and without that, they will procreate, and the colonies will simply grow.
With respect, I don't think that you are in a position, or anybody who is taking care of the TNR programs, to claim that TNR is having any appreciable effect on reducing the population of feral cats, because you nor us actually has a population estimate for these feral cats. It's a very difficult thing to do in a scientifically robust way. We are trying to do that on Little Cayman, but I'm just saying that we don't believe that the actual TNR has an appreciable effect on the population of feral cats. We believe they're already likely at their carrying capacity out there. So it is, I know that this is probably something that we will never convince you of. We have read the scientific literature, we have evaluated it, we have talked to many, many people, and this is our position from the point of view of what the scientific literature is saying about TNR, and especially the TNR in the context of releasing feral cats back into an island ecosystem, which is extremely vulnerable to feral animals.
Well, I thank you for that. I have actually read the scientific data to quite a detailed extent, and I think that I think your position is based on one extreme. There is another option out there, which science also does say that TNR does work, But the problem is you have a very unique situation here. You have a closed-off island with something like TNR. You don't have new cats that are swimming to shore from other countries.
No, but they're being allowed in. Pet cats, there's no prohibition on the importation of animals.
It would have to be the whole, and of course you've got the new cats coming in from outside the area that's being TNR'd, but coming in from, the wild within the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
So it's not a closed population in that respect.
Yeah, to answer the first question, I mean, the import of animals would be, for example, something that would be very easy to regulate. To require all animals that are imported to be spayed and neutered would be a very simple fix. And secondly, like you said, this is based on science, and science goes both ways. Now we've heard from multiple vets and multiple other persons who do know the science who have said that TNR does work. So I just don't think it's being seen reasonably in the context of these are cats that are here, even if the cats have reached their capacity, reducing their ability to reproduce in a closed environment where you don't have new cats coming in from outside, surely has to have an effect on the population numbers.
What the science shows is that TNR programs work in very restricted circumstances, and I think I started to say this earlier, much earlier in the program, and I didn't get to complete my thought. Probably my own fault. My mind was wandering, but I now would like to complete the thought, which is that what the science shows is that TNR programs only work in very restricted, very particular circumstances, and that is where you have a closed population of animals that is small, that you can enumerate, so 50 or less is what the scientific literature says, and where there is also an really active, robust rehoming program. So under those circumstances, TNR can work, but that is not what we are facing here on either of our islands.
I just believe that you're making a problem worse that already exists with this approach that's being taken now.
Okay.
But we'll have to leave it at that because there's obviously no saying. But I mean, the science goes both ways, and I don't think that it's reasonable to make a claim that all the parties here who have engaged actively in TNR and in reducing the numbers, while the Cayman Islands government has done nothing to support that, have not had a major impact, because anyone who is involved in TNR can see it themselves. You may not have data, but that might be the nearest thing you have to actual real life data on this island.
All right. Hey, thanks very much for that, and appreciate you taking time to share. I think we see this as an ongoing discussion that perhaps for some is even more engaged and involved than anticipated. If I might, though, and I'm mindful of your time in your meeting, but just for clarity, we did have a query that we want just to ensure that you have a chance to respond to, just in case. We know we had a gentleman and the lady thereafter that called, speaking about the issue of the chickens and they not being, native,
mm-hmm.
and wondering if there's some sort of time frame or period or like that, chickens have been brought here so that, and I know you said it was the biological perspective, but he said, he grew up in the 80s, and she said, she's just celebrated her birthday and her grandparents. So
no,
help us understand that, why that is important. I know you were clear, but just
right.
Yeah.
So, from a biological perspective, we define native species as those species who were on the island and here before human settlement really took hold. So things like chickens and cats were brought here with humans for obvious reasons. Cats possibly for companions, but also to help with like rats and ships and things like that. And it's just the definition. So they're not native to the ecosystems here. Our ecosystems didn't evolve with those species as being a part of it. There are no natural predators, so they can overrun our natural systems, and that's what we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that with the green iguanas really, really clearly. Hopefully people could see that. They were defoliating large areas of the landscape. There were also nuisances around people's houses, etc. We are picking up problems with feral cats. We have been for many, many years. So the chickens are also eating wildlife from time to time. They can take young lizards, young animals, but they're generally out there in the environment unchecked because there are no natural predators in the wild for them.
All right. Well, Ms. Gina, the platform is available to you and your team for this and any other topic that you wish. I know you do have that other meeting. I send you a note while you're late. That's fine. And Mr. Bothwell, thanks very much, sir.
Thank you for having us on at any time.
Thank you very much.
Have questions, we're happy to come back in.
All right. Yes. You always have been amenable to us reaching out to you. We want to ensure that we provide it if you need as well.
Thank you. And if you've got 1 minute, just anybody with questions with this, doe.ky is the website. With information, just do a search for invasive species. We have a pile of stuff, including the regulations and all the background information you might want to understand this or to argue against us, but at least you'll have the information.
Yeah. There's also a frequently asked questions, which is now 14 pages long. so we would encourage you to sort of leaf through that as well, because it addresses a lot of the typical questions that people have about this subject matter. So, yes, but thank you very much for having us on, Dwayne. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks very much. And enjoy the rest of the afternoon. If you find some custard cornbread, well, go right ahead and enjoy it. All right, our listeners, I want you to be a part of a discussion tomorrow. So join us then. Until then, have a blessed, safe, productive, and wonderful afternoon.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.